of that. So as you all know, ever since the UK economy became some way, cost of living went high, lots of workers in the public sector have been demanding a pay rise from the UK government. Talking about nurses were striking here and there, demanding a pay rise. Junior doctors went on strike as well. Even train drivers were on strike as well. My people, the police, teachers, like everybody has been demanding a pay rise from the UK government, right? So now it looked like apparently they need about £5 billion, to be able to cater for this whole pay rises that they've promised. So they realized that they actually need £2 billion this year and then £3 billion next year.
They'd allowed for a 3.5% increase, which leaves £5 billion to find, £2 billion this year and £3 billion next, which Rishi Sunak says will come without any new spending or borrowing.
And then Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK, was saying that it will not be fair to increase taxes because already people are complaining that the cost of living is high. So it will not be fair to increase tax of the people who are already suffering to pay just certain particular people, certain professionals. So it was not going to get that money, that £5 billion from taxpayers, right? Another thing is they said we're not going to borrow the money because the more they borrow money, the higher the inflation, which is even going to make the whole situation worse. So we're not going to do that. So then how are they going to raise that £5 billion to make up for all the salary increments that they have promised? Guys, guess what they said? What they came out with, and this was in the news yesterday, is that they're going to increase the cost of visa applications and also increase immigration health surcharge for the legal migrants that are coming into the UK. They're going to increase the immigration health surcharge, and through the increments of the immigration health surcharge and the increments of the visa application fee, they are going to raise about $2 billion, and then with the other £3 billion that they need, they're going to cut on some of the things or delay some of the projects that they have in place so that they can raise that money, do some cuts and delays here and there to get that money to come.
If we're going to prioritise paying public sector workers more, that money has to come from somewhere else, because I'm not prepared to put up people's taxes, and I don't think it would be responsible or right to borrow more, because that would just make inflation worse. So what we have done are two things to find this money. The first is we're going to increase the charges that we have for migrants who are coming to this country when they apply for visas, and indeed something called the Immigration Health Surcharge, which is the levy that they pay to access the NHS. So all of those fees are going to go up, and that will raise over £1 billion. So across the board, visa application fees are going to go up significantly, and similarly for the immigration health surcharge, for migrants who are coming to this country legally, they have to pay a fee to access the NHS, to contribute to NHS care. I think that's entirely right. Neither of these fees have been increased recently, and we think it's appropriate, given the costs for everything have gone up, that those fees, both for applying for visas and for accessing the NHS, go up too. That will raise over £1 billion, as I said, so it's a significant contribution to helping us pay for these pay awards.
The rest will come from efficiencies. That's cuts and delayed planned spending. So, is it fair?
So, it's not fair to tax the British people to pay these professionals. However, it is very fair, according to Rishi Sunak, to increase immigration health surcharge and increase visa application costs. Guys, what do you think? Is this really fair? If you don't know what the immigration health surcharge is, let me explain. So if you're coming on the UK on other visas, not on a visit visa, you pay what we call the immigration health surcharge. This is after you have paid your visa application. You're going to pay what we call the immigration health surcharge. If you're coming to school here, if you're coming on the youth mobility visa or any other type of visa, this was in the past, okay? What the immigration health surcharge does is it's used to fund the NHS so that immigrants can also get the NHS for free, right? During the COVID time, 2020, health professionals that were on the front line were mostly immigrants, and then we sort of like demonstrated and campaigned. No, we didn't demonstrate. We sort of like, we called on the government to take away the immigration health surcharge for migrant health professionals, and then this was approved. So from 2020, if you were coming on a health and care worker visa, the health and care worker visa, doctors are on it, nurses are on it, midwives are on it, carers are on it. If you are an immigrant coming to the UK to work in the UK health and social care sector, you did not need to pay the immigration health surcharge. So this was because of COVID and because we fought and they requested that if we are at the front line, saving lives, then you have to do something for us, and then they took it off. But prior to that, during my time, in 2018, obviously before COVID, we were paid £300 per person for the immigration health surcharge. So for me, because initially I had a 3-year visa, I had to pay £900 just for me alone, okay? Obviously, it was the company that I was coming to work for that paid for it. So everybody everybody that came before that time had to pay this. Around my time, like I said, it was £300 per year. It later went to £600 per year. So £600 per year, if you are coming with your spouse, and let's say you have a 3-year visa, do the multiplication. Each person is going to pay £1,800 because you have a 3-year visa. So the situation is even worse for larger families that are, let's say, family of 6, and you have a 3-year visa, and then you're paying for each year, for each individual, £600. That means each person, 600 times 3 is 1,800. So that means £1,800 times the 6 of you. How are you going to afford that? Even that alone was headache. Now, during the COVID, they took this off, but for any other visa, student visa and the normal skilled worker visas, those coming here to work in, let's say, IT sector, accounting sector, whatever other sector, you are due to pay this amount of money. And this is huge. Even in the UK, it's huge. Not to talk about converting into your country's currency to get the funds to pay. This was a very unpleasant thing for most skilled workers that were migrating to the UK. Now you are saying that you are even going to increase this more. So at the moment, you pay £470 per year for visa and immigration applicants who are under the age of 18 at the time of application. And then you pay £624 per year for all other visa and immigration applications. So for example, you need £3,120 for a 5-year visa. Hey! And just yesterday, this blog, it's called the freemovement.org.uk, they also said that the normal rate for immigration health surcharge will increase from the 624 to 1,035 per year because the government is looking at raising about £2 billion with the visa application fee increments and immigration health surcharge. Honestly, the gov.uk, I haven't seen any official document saying this is the amount that we're going to pay, but it's just an estimate from this blog. So if you're coming and you get a 3-year visa, you're looking at paying over £3,000. If this is true, you're looking at paying over £3,000 just for the immigration health surcharge, and then you pay your visa application fee as well. Flights is not in yet, so think about all these things. Migration to the UK is getting tougher and tougher, and the funny thing is now they have proved that they actually do need us for their economy to work, because now they are planning their budget based on future migrants that will be coming, amounts of money that they plan to get from us. Can you imagine? And I'm not surprised because I think a few weeks ago I also saw this video on YouTube where this lady was saying how much students contribute to the UK economy, and the fact that we are giving the economy so much, yet we are not entitled to public funds.
Research published by HEPI last week shows that in 2021-22, the benefit to the UK from international students stood at £41.9 billion, with every single constituency on these islands seeing a benefit. And the dependents that come with them, often those husbands or wives, are working. They're not a burden to the state, and they have to pay the immigration health surcharge as well.
A student can be in the UK for, let's say, the duration of the whole course or the whole university program and will not even visit the NHS and will not even get sick, yet you'd have to pay this. Okay, somebody will be here for 5 years and might not necessarily really need the NHS like that. Somebody would just rather go and get over-the-counter medication when they have headache or they have a stomach ache or whatever, and not really go to the NHS because of the long queues and blah, blah, blah. Yet you still have to pay this regardless. So now you are budgeting and planning how much you're going to pay your public sector workers based on money you intend to take from migrants in the future. What if we don't even come? So if we don't come, that means you're not going to pay them. This shows how important we are as migrants. We help the UK economy. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. And when I heard how much money international students actually contribute to the UK economy, I was marveled. I'm like, really? Yes, they make us feel like we are so desperate, yet you need our money as well. Yes, they need our money. We contribute a lot to the UK economy. Students, migrants coming through the visa application fees. And remember, the visa application, sometimes people don't even get the visas and they lose the money. All these are ways that the UK gets money from us. Honestly, we are that important. So that is it, guys. What do you think? What do you honestly think? Is this fair?